important. And we've seen examples, here in the U.S. and a variety of all over the world where infrastructure and communication providers have expanded into other adjacent areas or not so adjacent. And there's very few that have been successful in that. And I can think of a couple that have been successful, but for the most part, you've got to really focus on, what you are, who you are, what you're trying to be, and then kind of evolve and transform within that space. That appears to be, the most successful path. And, again, I'll go back, that network asset that is a hugely valuable resource, and kind of invest in it. Properly. Marjet mentioned 5G. We could talk about that forever, of course, but that next investment cycle, which is a 10-year investment cycle, it's crucial to get that right, both for technology companies as well as for
are up and running. You cannot, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, but in the telco world, it's very true.
Well, absolutely. It was brilliant to hear. Just to summarize, we heard of collaboration. We heard how important the network is. We heard agility. We heard that you've got to look at all kinds of technologies, but and rather than, and Amirat, I'm going to take the hand gesture rather than going this way. We're going to go this way. And Bruce, you did mention about culture. I think it was very important. It's not talked about as much when we talk of sustainable value. I think we underplay that, so I think I would double underscore that one. But it was fabulous chatting with both of you. Thank you so much for being as open and candid in this conversation. I hope you liked it, listening to both of them. So thank you so much for listening to us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this very, very interesting session. It's the CEO Conclave and the CEO Priority Conclave, which is focusing on prioritizing the technology to generate sustainable value to your customers. And who else to discuss but a very distinguished panel that we have today. And I would like to bring in the panel one by one. I will request all the panelists to join in one by one. Mr. Mahendra Nahata from Reliance Jio, Director, Reliance Jio.
Hello, I'm Mahendra Nahata.
Mr. Ajay Puri, Chief Operating Officer, India and Southeast Asia at Bharti Airtel.
Hi, this is Ajay here.
Hi. Mr. Neeraj Sharma, Managing Director at Accenture.
Hello everyone, this is Neeraj Sharma.
Mr. Saurabh Tiwari, Chief Technology Officer at Dell.
Good evening, Saurabh Tiwari here.
Mr. P. Balaji, Chief Regulatory and Corporate Affairs Officer at Vodafone Idea.
Hello, everybody.
And Mr. Manish from Sterlite Technologies, Chief Marketing Officer at Sterlite Technologies.
Hi, everyone. Manish from STL.
Yeah, STL. Hi, thank you everyone for joining in, and it's my privilege to be moderating such an important session. When it comes to, just to set a context, and before I ask a distinguished panelist some of the important questions which are relevant to the topic, I'd like to just set a context on why this topic is very important. India is at the cusp of digital revolution and disruption, with more than 120 crore customers, wireless data usage of greater than 11 GB per customer per month, FDI inflows at its all-time high, tele-density which is greater than 85%, India having more than 600,000 towers, and the digital disruption which is being caused by multiple policies that are being introduced by the government. which is incentivizing not only the private sector but also a lot of implementation in rural areas. It's very important to understand that India is the fastest growing telecom market in the world. To discuss the potential of the India story and also the technology disruption and the paradigm shift that is happening within telcos for the benefit of larger enterprises, I have a very distinguished panel, and I like to first start off with Mr. Nahata. Sir, India is having a tele density of more than 85% average, but the rural density is around 59% only, which means penetration of digital in the rural area is requiring some amount of attention. There is lack of connectivity, and which is having an impact on other services that actually impact our rural population, which is digital infrastructure, etc., which can be easily enabled by the telecom operators. So the question to you, sir, is how can the telecom sector assist in creating a digitally inclusive society and create shareholder value at the same time? Very important question and very relevant in the current scheme of things, sir. Your views.
Thanks, Purushottam. Digital inclusion is a journey to digital empowerment for the people of the country. Now, telecom sector's role is very important out here. Because any digital inclusion needs connectivity and constant communication amongst people. Now, here the telecom sector has the most important role to play in providing broadband connectivity, at the same point of time providing content in that connectivity, and third, most importantly, providing internet and broadband capable devices at a cheaper price. Now, telecom sector has a most important role to play in all these three areas. Now, in Indian context, as you rightly said, this removal urban and rural digital divide is very, very important. And telecom sector has to particularly work on that if that digital divide has to be ended. Jio recognized it much earlier. If you look at it today, Jio covers almost 95% population of the country with its 4G broadband. In the last 4 years alone, Indian broadband connectivity has increased almost 4 times, from 192 million to 726 million. Now, unless the telecom sector, not only Jio but everybody else, works together to see that every village of the country is covered by this broadband, we cannot say that it's a digitally inclusive society. And I think BharatNet is also going to play an important role in that, because government has announced, the Honorable Prime Minister himself has announced that all the country's villages would be linked by fiber optic cable in next 1,000 days. That's also a big step towards creating a digitally inclusive society with fiber. And I think with that empowerment to rural people of the country, the way they think, the way they work, and their education level, all are going to change. Now, the most important issue is how do you finish the rural and urban divide, create a digitally inclusive society, and yet create a shareholder's value. I do not think there is any contradiction in that. Sometimes people would assume that, giving rural connectivity would mean erosion in profitability of the telco. But our experience has not shown that absolutely. Today, in rural areas also, the data consumption is 11 GB per month per subscriber, equivalent to what you have in urban areas. So, if you have a business model where you drive large scale usage of data at affordable price, where the more and more people can use it. What is broadband? Broadband is a pipe, very large pipe. With the kind of technologies exist today, you can create a very large pipe. Now it's a question of you want to put few subscribers with a high price, or you want to fill up that pipe with more number of subscribers with a lower price. And the whole idea of inclusive society is more number of subscribers by a lower price. And that's what Jio has done. So, whereas you can serve customers at an affordable price to finish this digital divide. And I think you can very well create a shareholder value also without any problem. Geo is a great example of that. Thank you.
Sure.
lifestyle. Second thing is we need to think citizen and not consumer. Consumers only become, citizens become consumers as the economy grows. Some of our villages, and the Prime Minister has said Digital India and Ghar Tak Fiber to 6.5 lakh villages, but there are citizens there. They are not yet high ARPU customers. So we have to think citizens, not consumers. And then the third one is, as India, we have a chance to think like winners and not players. One interesting fact I would like to say is that half of the world that is not yet connected is actually a lot more like India than it is like America. It is us who understand how to handle dense slum connectivity, not America, right? And right now, all the technology that is being moved around the world is basically coming from those economies. This is the time when India's ability to build affordable technology, not just for fiber, but also for 5G, right? We have to take the virtualized open technology space, crack it in India, and then make it happen in South Africa, make it happen in Middle East and North Africa. There are parts of the world that should see India as a leader. Yes, we have to move today from unconnected to connected, but we can also make the move from being behind to being ahead. I mean, I think this is 25 years of telecom. We can rule the next 25. Yeah, when I say we, I genuinely mean Jio, Airtel, BSNL if they were here today, Voda Idea. You guys have, I think, the opportunity and responsibility of a lifetime. And at STL, with our fiber and our programmability and all of that stuff, we like to stand behind that. Back to you, Puru.
Thank you, Manish. And in the interest of time, and just to focus on the very important topic that we started off with, which was prioritizing technology for sustainable value, I will quickly go around the table on just asking one question to everyone, which is on, for all this to happen and for the spend that Manish also spoke about, business models have to be revisited. So I'll just go around the table, and if all the distinguished panelists can just spend a minute on what are your views on how are the business models undergoing a change with this kind of disruption happening. I'll start with Mr. Nahata. Sir, from your perspective, what is imperative for the business, the changing business model, and what would be the advice to not only the CEOs but also to the ecosystem partners, because they have to work together with you?
Look, business models have started changing. If you look at the business model, education business, for example, delivery business, e-commerce business, education, healthcare, everywhere the business model have changed, and they are going to change even further more rapidly, and it is because of the technology availability. As it was pointed out, that education, it is being delivered remotely now. Even the rural areas, children can have the best of the education, best of the lectures available. Healthcare business, again, it's changing quite a lot. Agriculture, with the advent of IoT, narrowband IoT, agriculture business is going to change quite a lot. Entertainment is successful in business rather than the people who do not adapt to these technological changes. So as 5G comes in, more number of use cases are being there. For example, in medicine, we are today talking of doctor probably looking at the reports and some more diagnostics remotely and trying to prescribe some medicines to a patient. But tomorrow time will come with 5G, remote surgeries would be done. And doctors sitting in Delhi or probably sitting in New York would be doing surgery on somebody in some rural areas in India. So these are the changes which are going to happen and which are going to drive business models in a completely different way. And people, if they don't change, I think they will lag behind. And people who change, they will prosper. And the important thing which is going to happen here, innovation is going to be driving every business. And what it would mean what it would mean is that even a startup company of couple of people, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, would become billions of dollars of worth of company. Unicorns, as we have seen in India, a number of cases that has happened. So that is another big change which is going to happen, that innovative people, young people, people sitting in rural areas maybe, but who are having innovation, they will become more successful in business, just rather than the people who just keep on working on the old style. That's what my take is.
Mr. Puri, what are your views? How does telco and the ecosystem get the right ROI for the investments that we're talking about? Because it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick.
Yeah, Puru. In fact, I think before I even get to there, I'll just say that it's not only about technology. Technology is obviously going to make all the changes. But beyond that, I think we need to be very sensitive about the customer experience. Finally, it is all about delivering an experience to the expectation. And the third piece, which is equally important, is the creating a partner ecosystem. See, we cannot, as telcos, we cannot do everything ourselves. What we need to do is work with the device manufacturers, work with the content creators, work with the technology solution providers, and create many more solutions innovatively, both for enterprise customers, business customers, and for the individual users. So I think as long as we acknowledge that this is one area where telcos have to work with the larger ecosystem, using the technology and keeping the customer at the heart of everything, I think we can deliver a very unique experience, and that's where I think we start to win. I mean, just to take an example on technology side, I think it's also a matter of saying what is the right time for what. For instance, when it came to shutting down 3G services across the country, Airtel was the first when we realized that the ecosystem is moving rapidly. Device ecosystem has changed to LTE and 4G. We were the first to shut down the entire 3G infrastructure and convert it to more efficient 4G infrastructure. When it comes to 2G, we're doing the same thing with the spectrum pools. However, there is a large chunk of India consumers who are still on the 2G networks, who are still using voice services, and therefore they want, and they would want to have that, so that services could continue to stay for a while. I think the telco's role is building platform, building ecosystem, where we can bring service providers together. Our own example of Airtel Xtreme, Airtel Wing, and our partnership with and on the enterprise side with Cisco's and many other service providers are great examples of creating platforms and providing platforms for the OTT services, content, and many other services, both at an individual level or at an enterprise level, be it an IoT services or cloud gaming or whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Puri.
So I would say it's all about working together and creating a digital agenda for the country.
Working together and creating a digital agenda. Neeraj, if I could ask your quick views on how is the ecosystem business models undergoing a change, and your closing thoughts around that.
Sure. And how I'll probably broaden that question a little bit more by saying how are telcos changing that ecosystem model. What's happening right now is that in terms of core connectivity as well as digital services, I think the problem of availability, accessibility, and affordability, that problem has always remained there. In the area of core connectivity, telcos have done an admirable job in solving in all three areas, whether it is availability, accessibility, or affordability. But in terms of digital services themselves, we talked about education, healthcare, everything there, that even though ecosystem players like startups and others, they are creating those services, these services are still not very neither accessible nor affordable at mass scale. I mean, yeah, some urban consumers with the right devices, with the right amount of money, can access all those edtech courses by paying 30,000 rupees per annum for math and science only. But how do we ensure that a digital school, not just math and science courses, but an entire digital school is available to 50 million, 5 crore Indian students, bring in much wider reach, like I talked earlier as well, a much wider reach, as well as the kind of evolution that can be brought in. So Mr. Puri talked about, the role Wink and Extreme is playing in terms of aggregating content for entertainment. Similarly, that kind of aggregation and a revised model will have to be executed for all of these other services: education, healthcare, government services, financial services. And that's the kind of role which the whole ecosystem will need to play. So ecosystem will become an input into what the telcos will enable.
Thank you, Neeraj. So we heard innovation, we heard startups, we heard changing business models and telcos driving it. Balaji, if I can move on to you and hear your closing thoughts on how what is your recommendation when it comes to telcos' role in changing the business models, and how is it actually transformed?
The understanding of technology, innovation, creation of platforms and partnerships is the way forward, as earlier speakers have indicated quite lucidly. And all of us have made the transformation. If you look at our own company, Vodafone Idea, we've kind of morphed into a telco plus play. And clearly it's about, that's where the customers want us to move towards. Collaborate with the best across verticals, provide the right kind of content and applications and services, whether it's healthcare, fitness, whether it's education or even business help, even if it's security services. It's about getting the best of breed on a platform and handing it over. And so that's what customers are looking for, and we need to transform. And we are, as an industry, transforming quite rapidly, and therefore becoming relevant to them. If you're relevant to customers, then you're part of the digital trillion economy that the government wants to create, and which will get done, no question, in terms of looking at the next 500 million people. In the end, that's also part of the journey that we have to, as telcos, play an important part by taking the ecosystem to them. And here again, partnerships are very critical. So if we make smart devices more affordable to current non-smartphone users to upgrade, then that's useful. That requires collaboration with OEMs. It requires collaboration with financial institutions, because no one wants to buy. If they have to get access to the services that we have described as a panel so far, then they need to have good devices, and therefore partnerships with financing institutions and OEMs is very critical. Then digital and financial inclusion programs. We ourselves, through our experience, been able to touch the lives of 10 million people in digital and in financial literacy programs, in able to catalyze through virtual means. If one organization can get 15-20,000 schools together to experience it in this virtual world, then imagine the power of collaboration across the entire ecosystem, what it can do. Smart agri, I think, was talked about. The opportunities are tremendous. It is just about getting down to saying what we do is to create the tool set and the platform and allow for innovators to come in and partner to solve the problems and the opportunities at mass scale.
Thank you, Balaji. I'll quickly move to Saurabh. Your closing thoughts when it comes to the changing business models, as well as what are your recommendations on the key imperatives.
Right. So, look, absolutely aligned to what all the other panelists have said. Here's the thought: telcos have the almost enviable position of being omnipresent. They are the closest to an individual, regardless of where that individual is staying. If he's in a city, he's got a cell site maybe a few 500 meters away from him. If he's in a village, the most rural of the villages, the site will be, say, a couple of kilometers away from them. So those assets can be really exploited using artificial intelligence, accelerators, machine learning, to provide a plethora of services that all of the panelists have just mentioned. Okay, they're not just a bit pipe. They're not just a pipe. They can be an incredibly intelligent vehicle of development across the country. Okay, I mean, no one else has that kind of presence. It's taken them decades to build that infrastructure. Okay, and connecting it, as Manish also mentioned, I mean, fiberizing all of that is only going to make that entire process a whole lot more easier, and the services will be a lot more diverse, a lot more rich, and a lot more, the subscriber experience is going to be unparalleled. Similarly, what we also need to keep in mind is security. Okay, we have been facing external threats. Okay, we're not going to go into those details, but 5G can bring in something pretty cool, which is called network slicing, right?
Yeah.
So you have a slice of network which can be used for education, which can be used by emergency responders, which can be used by banks and financial institutions, which can perhaps even be one day used to track the status of our water reservoirs, okay, the natural resources that we have through drones and so many other things. So the possibilities are truly limitless if we can conserve resources, automate, and connect. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Saurabh, you spoke about, I think, very, very important areas. Manish, I'll just request your closing thoughts on what are your suggestions on the key imperatives from a business model perspective.
Sure. Not much I can add after all the clear answers there. So I just say two words. One is freemium. The other is, as I think Ajay talked about, mostly experience. So and if I explain, seems like if we want to get everyone online, it's not going to be affordable. But one thing that we have seen in the digital world is a lot of consumers are actually not the customers, but they are creating a networked experience. So a freemium experience for them will make the whole country grow. And similarly, like we have to be inclusive in the customer set.
Thank you, Manish. With that, with those words, I'd like to just conclude the session. I thank all the fellow panelists. I'll just add one last word to this: frictionless. And frictionless would be some affordable prices that we all spoke about. With that, I'd like to thank all the panelists, my distinguished panelists. Thank you very much for joining this session and sharing your insights. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
First of all, I want to convey all the success to IMC 2020. So this talk is about emerging technologies of 5G, IoT, AI, and AR and VR. Although it is still early days to really measure the immediate impact of 5G innovation on organizations, the role of 5G on the world's economy would particularly in pushing the adoption rates of new technologies such as IoT, AI, AR, VR. It is estimated that 5G will towards what is known as the era of intelligent connectivity. And these emerging technologies are prominent with their sweeping advantages and long-term economic potential. The Internet of Things has just started. It will empower billions of additional devices to connect with the web. While IoT in homes has colossal potential, the real potential lies in industrial IoT. As per available industry statistics, IoT in India will proliferate to touch 2 billion connections and yield revenues worth $11.1 billion over the next 2 years. As per available industry, several businesses are realizing the need for an early adoption of IoT, AI, AR and VR into their operations to gain competitive edge through increased productivity and process efficiencies, thereby ensuring significant cost reductions and sustainable long-term growth. Internet of Things or IoT is touted as the next big thing, and it is expected that there will be around 100 billion IoT devices by 2035 in India itself, producing immense volume of data, generating revenues of around 13,000 billion USD. Under 5G, smartphone users will start embracing augmenting reality, which is called AR, more than ever. Telecoms will also start using virtual reality VR technologies to reinforce their customer experience. It is estimated that in India, AR and VR market will reach 30 billion USD and 1.7 billion USD respectively. 5G coupled with IoT, AR and VR will see widespread adoption and innovative use case scenarios across verticals. 5G will expand the mobile ecosystem to new industries such as manufacturing, healthcare, IT, ITES, BFSI, education, transport and logistics, energy, agriculture, smart manufacturing, intelligent retail, consumer goods and connected smart cities, among others. 5G and IoT will be the key to enabling advances in manufacturing. 5G coupled with IoT will offer a chance to build smart factories and take advantage of technologies such as automation, AI and AR VR for troubleshooting. It is estimated that globally 5G will create value of around 4,600 billion USD in smart manufacturing sector by 2035. In the healthcare segment as well, IoT will drive significant transformation. Hospital, drug and waste management robotic surgery, real-time health monitoring and diagnostics via IoT, 5G will create value of around 1056 billion USD in connected healthcare by 2035. The integration of technology in the classroom is key to educating and skilling the students for success. AR and VR require higher bandwidth, lower latency and network resiliency. In other words, they need 5G. Thus, the advent of 5G coupled with the use of technologies such as AR and VR. Further, armed forces across the world already use advanced virtual cockpits to train fighter pilots. With